Today we are at war with the English language. Despite the fact that English is almost uniformly used as the language of culture, government, and commerce, the United States has no codified official language. The United States federal government does not specify an official language. However, all official documents in the United States are written in English. Having English as our official language simply means we have a universal method of communication. In no way are we demoting the use of foreign language, but we are discouraging the self-segregation of our community as well as our education system. What's happening in our community is social balkanization is becoming increasingly larger. What's happening with social balkanization is minorities are coming into our country and settling with those of their native country because they feel comfortable. Whenever you feel comfortable with someone, you're able to communicate with them. So what's happening, and this is a prime example as far as Houston is concerned, you have minorities that the community is catering to those minorities. Say in Houston, the Hispanic minority, they have billboards that are advertising in Spanish. You also have the road signs that are in Spanish, street signs in Spanish, as well as grocery stores that are selling primarily Hispanic products. So when there is no need for these minorities to function outside of their community, they're really settling in their society and getting comfortable and not outsourcing, going towards out of their realm. So most immigrant groups were small enough to be easily swallowed in the years past, but now you're seeing their cultures come alive more and they're being more prominent in the United States. So while a small minority of people may learn the new language because they want to, the vast majority of people only learn it when they have to. So the act of learning English will tie immigrants into a political and a historical tradition. Moving on to the bilingual education system, bilingual education is very expensive, and our government is obligated to provide an efficient way of schooling for these kids in order to promote success in the workforce whenever they get out of school. So what's happening is these ESL, which is English as a second language, is becoming very expensive because we're having to train these teachers to be able to teach the same English curriculum but parallel to that of these minorities' native language. So what's happening is in the education system, these minorities are being placed together in the same class, so their peer-to-peer relationship is that of what they're used to accustomed to at their house. So they're not getting the exposure of the English language because their curriculum is based to that of their language. So you see there's no, if it's focused to their language, there's no English exposure. So when these kids are going home, they're right back into their native culture because their parents only know their native language. So in the way that we can solve this is that the government primarily focus their funds on training these teachers or having them tutor these kids to learn English. So bilingual education also segregates students in its system from those outside of it. So Pro-English is a national advocates for the official English language. They are committed to ensuring that all Americans share in the economic, social, and political benefits of having a common language. Official English has been passed in 31 states, which means 31 states across the country have voted to have English as its official language. So this does not in any way prohibit foreign language from being spoken in each state, but they are promoting their culture and their use of that language. So for example, if someone is sick, they will give them healthcare information or risk in their native language to make sure that the points are getting across. So you'll see that these people are kind of reluctant to learn English because they don't want to push their culture behind them. So, let's see. Declaring English as the official language will give legal force to our history. and help provide unity to Americans at a time when many come from different backgrounds and different political views. So I urge you, if you know someone who doesn't know English, encourage them to learn. They don't have to speak perfectly, but the benefits put them at a greater advantage as a citizen in the United States. So please remember, we shouldn't have to push one for English. It should be a given. And some examples as far as keeping our culture or their culture alive, you see here in Houston, the International Festival is a real big promotional thing as far as letting each culture come and put forth like their traditions or their food to keep that alive. Say for example, in Tomball, I know the German festival was just held, and that way they were able to pass on their traditions or within their kids keep their culture going. So that's just some of the examples as far as keeping their culture so they feel like they're not leaving that behind just because they're learning English. So, does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. With so much emphasis put on learning Spanish with multicultural that we have here in Houston, we have one of the most diverse group of people here in Houston. Why isn't there any aspect or any emphasis put on any other cultures such as Korean, Filipinos, Africans? How come? Why is there not any need to learn that language other than Spanish?
There is, it's just they're the majority of the minority, but for example, if you go into Houston, I don't know if it's specifically labeled Chinatown, but there is an Asian community just like the Hispanic community where you will see those street signs are in Chinese, you know, and they have, say, Chinese markets and things of that such where they can buy their native foods and things from their country. What else?
Okay, I would like to add on to what he just said. You know, they have Hispanic, like Home Depot and Lowe's. So why don't they have that in Korean or some other language? It's just Spanish and English. So do you think that's fair to the rest of the minorities?
Absolutely not. But on the same token, the Hispanic people that are here making a living are using those tools in order to make a living. So I feel maybe those companies are focusing their attention and their money on the resources needed in order to sell their products. What else? Any more questions?
Yes, that's not only I think that it's a great risk not knowing English, but when you look at it in terms of say emergency or fire or something like that, and you're caught, I say caught, but perhaps with someone who doesn't speak English, it makes it very difficult for
Absolutely.
to communicate with them.
Right. If someone is stuck in a house or in a back bedroom, just to relay that information, because you're also putting the EMS people at risk by going in, so they need to know specifically where the problem is, where they can correctly identify. You're right. What else?
Are there any rules as far as when a person applies for citizenship? They don't have to have a good knowledge of the English language?
Nope, not at all. And I think that's kind of where they're going with this pro-English, is that they have to be held. What's your representation of being a citizen and you don't even know the native language of the country? How do you feel good about being a U.S. citizen, but yet you can't speak or relay information, you know, in the language? So I think that's very important. I think that's something that they're working to get past in their advocacy for the English, official English. All right, I want to thank everyone for coming tonight.